It's been a long time coming, but today we're going to carry on looking at the Compton organ. Well, it's actually the Mackin organ. This is a later type. I've spoke about it all in previous videos on this organ. If you haven't seen already, it's a crazy electrostatic tone organ design that was made to kind of circumnavigate the patents of Hammond and whatnot, making this crazy machine that has these tone generators right here. I've just noticed that they're kind of hanging off. Got to sort that out. That all have these absolutely beautiful waveform patterns inside of them, all of them different. And yeah, it's definitely a really interesting machine. But unfortunately, in the last video, that was probably last year, I don't know why it fizzled out, I got halfway through making the MIDI interface for it. And for some reason, I stopped, and I can't remember why. So let's have a look and figure out what's happened and why the fudge I stopped doing it. So this has been sat in the back room of this museum's not obsolete since then, and this back room still hasn't opened up for a few reasons, and it's going to change in the next month or so. So Joan's organ's over there, and let's open out to a wider lens. Yeah, so we've got the Mackin organ. It's usually sat underneath this, which is under the two quadra setup Leslie speakers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's some others that we need to do videos on because they're not wired in yet. They're going to get wired in, and we've also got the Teletubby tidal wave at the top. If you're not sure what this is, I do enthrall you to look at the first couple of videos on this that I made, and we'll be going further on. So these are the outputs. It's got 4 separate outputs. Originally, it would have these amplifiers. So there's actually 4 amplifiers, 1, 2, 3, 4. One of them doesn't work. So what I ended up doing is actually bypassing the amplifiers, going to direct output, so it could be directly recorded or put into other things via other amplifiers, if that makes sense. I hope it does. So we're getting just the kind of line signal from this whole machine. This is the tone wheels. So there's 1, 2, 3 sets of tone wheels with different sounds. I haven't taken any of these apart because they all work, but in the other video you saw there was a sine wave tone wheel, but the other ones will have probably different waveforms drawn on it. Around the back is the older type of Compton tone wheels, so you've got these ones as well. Just because they're bigger doesn't mean they're lower, it just means that they're different. It's a different blend, so you get a blend of all of these waveforms into all of these ranks that is under over here. If you remember, there's this massive cable which gives me the creeps. Like there's dare I say, probably maybe I'm going to say 800 wires. That's a vague guesstimation, but possibly even more, maybe more like 1500, I don't know, in there. And imagine having a short in that thing or a broken cable in that. So I try and move it as little as possible because this is directly connected. There's no way of disconnecting this from this because we've got this hardwired, unless you want to just take that off and make it, I don't know, just wire it. And what this is wired between is the preset selection in this rack of Dexion, wonderful Dexion. We got Erecto England. Erecto. I wonder if they're still going. Erecto. And over here we've got power supplies that give us the DC. It's been a while since I've looked at this, so I can't remember exactly what it was. It was probably about 450 volts DC that is required for the electrostatic stuff to happen. However, in a video coming up just after this, I've actually read into the history of Mackin and Compton, and there is a certain progress of this stuff that they found out just as they transferred over to solid state organ making devices that completely changes the game. And I'm sure when they discovered this certain thing that made these run at a much lower voltage, they probably had a bit of a facepalm moment. They were like, "Dole, we could have circumnavigated having it all 400 volts and probably had it running at 24 volts like the rest of the relays and things." We'll look at that in another video because I want to test it in the video before blowing the smoke. So here's the motor down here. The motor is surprisingly very good. Luckily, it's the bearings. It's smooth as a baby's. 1 sec, we'll turn this on. Actually, listen to that now. So we've got it on. This power supply is basically sending out 24 volts into it. So as you can see, it's rotating that, which is at the same time rotating these. This is ground, so I won't go. I won't get electrocuted, but you can see me slowing it down. You could get an idea. And I remember when I looked at this a year ago, that I was stuck. There was one that was being really difficult. Here we go. This one. Being a little bit sorry for itself. And it could be a tension thing. I messed around with the tension. I think it's it needs oil. So they do actually have oil ports on the side. If you look there, there's actually these little oil holes that you you're able to put some oil into it. So I did that last time, but this is a different tone wheel actually. This is a different, where was it? This is a different one. It was over here, the one that was being dodgy. So this is one that might just need a bit of, just going to push it to the side like. So if I move these, that's nice and free. That one's not, but was it? That's nice and free. It's not, but that feels like it might just be, because there's no real play in them. So they're basically bronze bushed. So there's an axle and then there's a bushing around it. So nice and smooth, not so smooth, not so smooth. So if it's not running as smoothly and not in time with the belt, because the belt makes all of these in tune. So to describe it further, I don't know whether I did this in the last video, is each of these are different note and they're all exactly the same. So all of these in the rack are actually exactly the same, but they have different sized. My mind might have gone a bit, I'm a bit rusty on this. I'm trying to describe it to you at the same time as trying to remind myself how the fudge it works. But as you can see, these little floating things that actually have, I think it's graphite or some sort of very high, some sort of pad. It looks like a distributor kind of thing that sits on the top of them, on the top of this, because this spins. There's a little fine bit, but this is the bit that grounds it. So this connects the spinning item to ground because it's actually isolated from the rest of the circuit. And then the outputs of these, of course, like in the other video you saw, around the back in a very difficult to get to manner. It's built in a very hard to work around way. I remember I did a while ago. Also, look at this. This is interesting. So what this is like a drip tray to stop any excess oil that has probably fallen out from over here to fall onto the pulley of the motor. So that's pretty cool. So if we spin it around, you'll see that they're all going around in circles. So it's all spinning nicely. So, you know, I've done the work on here last time. It might need a little bit more fettling now. It's been a good few months since I looked at it. Also, look at this. This is a heater. We don't need it because it's going to be in a warmish, I say, relatively warmish place. Warm for us, but we are British and British don't like paying for heating. Oh my God, it's actually on. And I've just blown the fuse probably. That's what happens when you fiddle with things. Okay, so it's been riveted. That's gone pop, poppity pop. So hopefully there was a fuse in here, but it looks as if it's actually turned the power off. So, okay, I'm going to remove this actually because we don't use it. We don't actually need it. So that's going. So there's another heater in this one as well. It's hiding right down here. That's another heater that keeps all of this rack warm. And there's a thermostat. So there's a thermostat on this one. So you can use it. Obviously, we're not going to use the thermostat heater. And there is a thermostat somewhere around on this one as well. Where is it? Hey, thermostat set to 68 degrees, 20 degrees C. There's no way we're getting 20 degrees C in here. It's going to be that's like tropical temperatures. Yep, screw it. This is going. We don't need the heater. This isn't going to be sat in a dark, dank basement in a church. So, which is what they were designed to basically be sat in, like a back room or somewhere cold in a basement in a church somewhere. So it's probably to get it to room temperature. So I think, you know, usually this place, well, it doesn't get super cold, but it doesn't get to 20 degrees though. So who knows? So this is going. We'll store that somewhere else. So we'll plop this back on so we don't lose it and carry on. A quick bit of a reminder of what's going on here. So in the last videos, we looked at all of the relays. As you know, they are just relay powered. Boop, boop, that lifts up. And this specific one is picking up a kind of blend of a stop. So it's being turned on and then that is lifting up. It's there, it's just here. So that's lifting up and turning on a switch right there, which doesn't look like it's actually touching anything. Oh, it's touching something inside. You can see it. Oh no, I'll touch this one. It's more obvious when you go from the outside. So you can see that bit there is the stop being selected. Select me, select and stop. And this piece of plastic is quite a commonly used thing. You see there's a bunch of holes. That's because other stops may have more than one of these selected. Actually, all of the stops are just a single bit. But when it gets used down here, which is for the note selection, you will see that it's the same kind of fibrous stuff, but there's a load of these little bits that need to make connections. So it lifts up and makes connections with a whole load of them, a whole blooming load, and that basically selects the notes. So this is the keyboard note rank selector Thingamagoop 5000. This one, it has a label on it somewhere. Where has it gone? So this is the swell keyboard. So when you're playing the keyboard on one of the organ consoles, we'll have a look at that in a second. Haven't got the exact one for this because unfortunately it did get scrapped because it didn't get saved in time, but this got saved by Lucien Nunes. So this is the swell pedal, so the swell keyboard. So second you press a note on the keyboard, flicks like this. You would have seen in the last video on this. Then you've got the great keyboard, and you've got the Thingamagoop keyboard. It says up here, choir. It's the choir. And then you've got the pedal, which is a smaller one that's down here because there's not as many notes. So it's not as many because you've only got a pedal's worth of playing. So it's mismatched. We don't have the console for this, unfortunately. But like I mentioned in the previous video, what have I done? I've put some MIDI interfaces in. So this is a project I started and I have no idea. It fizzled out. Maybe it's because I had more soldering to do. But I've soldered in all of the wires to be able to connect via these sockets, so D-sub connectors. So the D-sub connectors connect to this PCB that I made in the last video on this. And that basically has high-sided drivers. So these are all like electronic switches that basically pretend to be the keyboard notes that end up turning on these thingamajiggies. And the last time we looked, it worked really well. So hopefully it's still working really well. It needs a bit more wiring. So it looks like I have wired in. Now this is when it's all going to come back to me. This is the test patch. And this is what I got going on the first video on this. So this is the swell. You can see SW, that's the swell keyboard. So this is the test patch for all of the notes of the swell keyboard, the great keyboard, the choral keyboard. Then you've got the pedal, and then you've got the pedal preset settings. And then you've got all of the preset settings for the swell, great, and choir, you know, all of the stop tabs, all of the stops, but they're not labeled. There's absolutely no documentation with it. So it's all a game of guessing. So I've got to just sit down, turn it on, and remember what the fudge we've done. But before we do that, let's just quickly talk about what we're going to be wiring it into. Over on the other side of this room, we've got, obviously, of course, we've got Jones' organ. I'm just going to turn it off really quick. Oh, I just tapped it. This console right here, this Compton console, Compton Organs Limited. Oh my God, that's on as well. So this is what we're going to use to control it. In fact, we're going to use this to control a load of things. Unfortunately, the stops, they don't match. It's a lot of work to have to replace them all. Blooming random noises going on everywhere. So unfortunately, the stops don't match. It's not a big problem. We're just going to go for the closest and work with that because you can obviously label and change things up till the cows come home, but we're just going to make it work. The cool thing about this is you've got the so for all of the presets, when you're pushing these for presets of the stop controls, you've got this underneath like a Yamaha CS80. You've got these, which are basically the preset selection ports. So it's a whole interesting thing entirely. And like, this is a precursor to a MIDI controller. So yeah, I don't know, I'm off the top of my head, this is a Mackin thing. So late 1950s, maybe even 1960s. So it's a precursor to a MIDI controller keyboard because this will have a big old chunky wire going out the back of it that directly connects hardwired to that in the building, so it's not made to be moved around. It's made to just be wired into that and left in the church to be played forevermore. You've got a bunch of switches. I'm assuming that might be turning on the the actual wheel, the tone wheels and the selection centers. So you've got down there. You've also got some pedal presets. You got the pedals. You got a couple of these volume expression pedals. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how those wire into this. Well, I think these might be used as variacs to basically turn up and down the voltage going into each of the ranks. So right now I've got the ranks actually hardwired into plus 450 volts each. So I think I'm actually got them at full whack, full volume. And then I think these pedals down here actually send more or less, well, less voltage to turn them down. I think that's how it works, which is going to be complicated to be able to integrate into the MIDI interface, but we're going to try. Hopefully. You've got the Rotophone, Daphne and Celeste, general vibrato, which is tough because this Mackin setup doesn't have a vibrato. The vibrato is literally a wheel that kind of pushes on and off on the belts to wobble them around. That doesn't have one of those. We might be able to add one. Pedal enclosed, great enclosed. And then, yeah, you've got these that come in and out, of course. This is a whole other project after getting the Mackin working. So first, before we have a look at the organ, let's go and get that thingamajig working. Okay, it is still working. You can see the flashing. You can hear it. In fact, you can even see it doing its wiggling whilst we're playing on the MIDI controller. Turns out I've just programmed them with exactly the same code, so I've only programmed 2. So the next thing we're going to do is program the top one, which is currently just flashing to control this set of keyboard relays. And yeah, we're on to the next thing. Bit of a refresh of the circuit board, so it's a little dusty, this one actually, but it's basically very much a redesign of the one that's controlling Jones organ all the way over there, but it's got D-sub connectors instead, and it's got more of them, and it's also high-sided, which means that you're sending 24 volts in, when with the organ, you're taking the 24 volts and sending it to ground via the chips here. So we're using in this instance an Mega 2560 on this circuit board. It's on the website. Look, I'm no computer, link below, and the code is, if you're interested, and the code is basically the same blooming thing as the organ one. It's just basically all of the solenoids, and then you've got the number for the solenoid, so MIDI channel on the solenoid, and then you've got the note of the MIDI channel for that solenoid. So I can't remember how many solenoids this takes. 62 solenoids in total on this can control, and then yeah, you get to choose all the solenoids, and it's the worst piece of code in the world, but it's going to work, and we're going to program it onto the Mega 2560 Pro and then plonk it onto the board like so. Programmed, boom, and as if by magic, it's all flashing, and we got that one moving, we got that one moving, and we got that one moving. They're all moving to the wiggle of my fingers. Just going to assume they're all working now, but they might not be. Now we need to get the pedal one, which is right there, wired in. However, I have not even soldered that in. You see, I have neglected to solder that part in, so we're going to have to make more connections. So I'm going to sit down, do some more soldering. It's only about 40 wires, I think, however many wires that is going all the way down, and we'll get another one of these on top to control the pedal. That is now wired in. It's looking a bit goofy, but I would have done it differently in hindsight, but hindsight is 2020. These are the preset boards. I'll put those in later, but that is all of it wired in. That's the whole MIDI section wired in. So now we can hear all of those going, as well as the one on the outside. Because there's not as many pedal keys, you've also got the presets on this test bit. So that means that we're actually playing, accidentally, we're playing the presets for the pedals. See, it says pedal there. These are the presets. Oh, where are they? There they are. Right here on the keys. So we're able to turn the keys, but if you look carefully, you'll see those moving, and you'll see all of these. Now all of the switch matrices are plugged in. The next one is this thing right here. There's two left, and these two connect to all of these on this first row, which are actually the stop tabs for the keyboards. So that's going to control this, this, and this, and that would all be connected ultimately to those pistons over there, or MIDI CC commands or whatever. So we've got one more of those that is going to sit on top of here. Okay, so in it goes. Get everything connected up now. One more layer. Wiring the power. Wiring the MIDI. Oh, MIDI through. We got the MIDI through in. We got that. Plonk in the power. These sub connectors. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Cable management in this situation was unfortunately a bit of an afterthought. Not the biggest fan of the way that sits, but the hindsight, lovely hindsight. We've just got to keep on moving forwards. But yeah, we've got a nice tower of MIDI conversion. Now I've coded every single one of the Arduino Mega Pros with exactly the same code. That means they're all responding to the same MIDI channel and the same notes, which is specifically, if you want to know, MIDI channel 13 and stuff. I'm not sure why I made it MIDI channel 13. That even means that the stops, the ones that are connected to this, they're moving when I'm playing the keyboard. So the next step that we need to do is actually split them all apart, because now everything is actually connected to the mind of the computer. Swear words. That means we can, designate it. So I'm going to take the code and I'm going to fine tune it to make all of the notes specific to the notes that they're supposed to be connected to. And then all of the stop commands, I haven't decided yet, but I'm either going to change the stops to program changes or CC control change commands. These are two different types of MIDI kind of protocols that you can use. I'm not sure what is the standard for things like Hauptwerk, which is a MIDI organ. Basically what people have done is taken these big old lumpy consoles like this, midify them to be used with a simulation of the organ. We're sort of doing the opposite to that, because we're doing the literal opposite. This bit would have been thrown away and the organ console would have been kept. This would have been replaced with a plugin, but we're doing the opposite. We're replacing the plugin with this. Yeah. Anyway, I'll see you in a sec when I've programmed it all.
I decided to control all of the organ stops with MIDI control change commands, MIDI CC commands. That's because there's 127 separate CC commands per channel. We've got all three of the keyboards set to MIDI channel 4, MIDI channel 5 and MIDI channel 6. The reasons I'll explain in the next video, but that means we can control all of them with the separate CC commands on the separate channels. I don't have a MIDI CC controller, so I'm using Logic at the minute to double check it is all working.
New day, new code. We've got MIDI channel 7, which is the top one, and then all the CC commands. MIDI channel 6 and MIDI channel 5, all designated. Press play on the CC commands on Logic. It's not ideal, but it'll do for now. And after making sure all of the code is going to the right places with all of the CC commands, because I've wired it all in a little bit of a higgledy-piggledy way, I'm going to label it on a little plaque somewhere to describe the wiring scheme, but we got it. It's all lining up. So the first one is the swell keyboard, and if you count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There's 15 stops on this one, 16 on the grate, there's 16 on the choir, and there is 16 on the pedal as well. Whilst those will all be programmed into the MIDI CC, they won't be all on the organ, because if you look at this, count the choir, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So you're missing 2, not a big deal, it doesn't matter. We've got the grate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, but you can add more stop switches underneath. Don't worry, it'll be fine, honestly. Especially considering that Compton stops all tend to sound very similar anyway. I've got a MIDI file loaded into it, so this is going to become a switch, a MIDI powered switch, so the console can turn on and off the motor. But let's turn it on, have a listen, try not to electrocute myself. And remove it. So this will be MIDI controlled as well, so we can turn it on via the console. It's pretty good, isn't it? It's pretty awesome, right? Maybe we need a VFD for that so we can fine tune it. That'll be quite cool.
It was at this point in the project I popped onto Patreon to ask if there was any copyright-free requests for me to play on the Compton organ, and this is what folk came up with.
Dance for Carp, take one.
As you can hear, it is going through different sound palettes. That is the organ stops being selected and unselected in the MIDI file that we're playing. As you can tell, we've turned off a bunch of stops now. And it's playing a much softer tone. Now let's turn on a few more. Plutonium Jesus requested the Compton races. Markku requested Old Lang Syne. Sadly, the vibraphone has stopped working recently, but it doesn't stop us from being able to use it with the hands. We'll fix it in the next video.
So that's it today for the Mackin organ. It's finally now all wired in. There's a couple of notes I've noticed aren't working or out of tune. I think there might be one of these that I cannot quite figure out which one it is that isn't quite spinning at the right speed. We'll tackle that in the next video when we start midifying that console over there, which means we can plug this in with a nice thin cable instead of that big chunky 500 cable loom at the start of the video. If you want to see how that progresses, then go and check it out over on Patreon, because I cover all of this stuff prior. I asked for the song requests on this video over there, and the full recordings are over there if you want to listen to them. But also, I've just made a decent sample pack VST of this with all of the stops on the Swell keyboard. So that means you can have a go on the Compton at the comfort of your own computer or your own iPad or something. And that one, amongst other decent sampler instruments, are available over on my Patreon as well. Anyway, until next time, I'm Luke Man, no computer. This is the Compton Mackin organ. Toodly-doo.